Journal entry 29. Let us start reading this next one to where I think we already did a spoiler on this from journal entry 28, but
I didn't watch that video yet. Imagine if they they're like, this is the first one. Maybe they skipped that part. They're like, all right, don't worry about it.
Go back and watch it. After
they listened to the entry. They didn't want to hear any commentary. They stopped the video.
Sure what to do.
Went to the next one.
I guess
no spoilers.
I guess you're spoiled either way, and we might as well read 28. Otherwise, you don't want to know why we're reading 29. So, I mean, at least that's as far as my half-functioning brain is thinking. Joe, how about you start with the first? Let's see here, how many paragraphs? Actually, they're short paragraphs. And how long does 29 go for? Let me see.
The rest of the page and then over. Yeah, it's a long boy.
But they're kind of small paragraphs. Why don't you read?
Because Jason and Jeremy did the first one.
Yes.
Both of them. We can split this in half. We could do it. You and I.
Okay, we can do. Oh, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I could
10.
stop. I could
5.
stop right before Shades.
5 paragraphs. 1, 2,
you can come in on
4,
Shades.
5. Yeah, I can do that. That's fine. All right. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Journal entry number 29. Inscribed by Thormun of Terrelon on this, the 19th day of Ranvig. The urgency of our task has driven us deep into the murky heart of Bleakwood. The trees here are black and twisted. Dark leaves cling to the spindly branches. Their gnarled arms reach out toward the daylight in search of fresh air. They won't find what they seek. The air here is anything but fresh. The trees grow close together, shutting out the light. They create a world of eternal darkness, and in that darkness dwell creatures with souls as black as Bleakwood's moonless night. Every sense strains outward, prodding at the darkness for any hint of trouble. Every snap of branch underfoot, every creak and moan of the trees, every last sound that breaks Bleakwood's silence as our hearts jumping in alert. However, the danger that approaches makes no sound at all. In the next moment, time seems to stretch itself out. I watch as every detail slowly unravels itself in the span of an instant. Tyrion pulls back on the reins of his horse. He drops behind a grouping of Ular's protectors, and with a calm and deliberate look in his eyes, he draws his weapon, points it squarely at the back of one of the protectors and fires. The crossbow bolt whistles through the air and finds its target, and with deadly precision. The protector cries out in pain and then slumps over in his saddle. Confusion and chaos set in. Horses whining as they're forced to turn sharply. Their riders looking for the source of the attack. Before I can react with even a word of warning, because of a reloading mechanism in Tyrion's crossbow, a second bolt is loosened as quickly as the first.
All right. Shades. Time snaps back to its usual speed as the sound of Konkin's cry. Oh my goodness, my brain. A dozen translucent figures appear from out of the blackness beyond the trees. And now their protector falls to one of Tyrion's bolts. Bedlin twists in his saddle, drawing his sword and cutting down Tyrion in one smooth stroke. Bedlin's eyes catch mine. Wiping a splatter of Tyrion's blood from his brow, he heatedly shouts, "It's the only way to stop a man possessed by a shade." The other
shade. Your question now.
Yep. The other shades descend upon us, closing us in on all sides. The 3 remaining protectors send bolts singing through the trees, partly due to the dim light and partly the speed of the shades' movement. Few find their mark. Bedlin calls out, "Don't let them engage you for long. Strike them down quickly." I leap into the air, loosing my hammer from its belt. I dive toward the closest of the phantoms, bringing my hammer down from over my head, sending it tearing through the shade, which dissipates into nothingness. Spinning around, my hammer finds another shade and sends it into the ether. 2 swift scores come at a price. I left myself open for an attack. Another of the shades tears its ghostly claws through my side. I cringe in pain as I feel the creature attempting to devour my very being, invading my soul. But I am saved by Kelda, who sends her spear sailing through the sailing through the attacking creature as she lands next to me and touches my side with her healing hand, instantly making it whole again. "They're retreating," shouts Konkan. A quick surveillance of the area shows the damage. 3 of Allah's faithful protectors lie scattered upon the ground, and with them, Xandar's most trusted messenger, Tyrion the Swift. We have been dealt a terrible blow this day. Of our elven brethren, only 7 remain. We surely won't survive another onslaught like this. We make haste for Lindisfarne. No one sleeps tonight. This is the wonderful love story, and Kelda, is there at the end. Now, okay, I got a question real quick when it comes to now. So, what Kelda holds in her hand and figure, is that a spear or is that a staff?
It's a spear.
It's a spear. Okay,
that's the intention. Yeah.
Okay, because in ToV it looks more like a staff, so that's what
she holds it like a
healing staff,
but it's a spear.
It's a spear. Okay. That was
a lot of Thormun's journal content is like additive. Like they wrote this after these characters came out, so there's a high chance they may have changed over time. But I think, yeah, as of current story, she's meant to be holding a spear.
Okay. Gotcha.
Well, now I know what that creature is, and I assume that's Tyrion and a shade behind him.
The shade.
Either Tyrion or an unnamed protector. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like their introduction. And really, Soul Devour for the Shades. There is a good army you can have with Shades that use that. I'm not remembering it specifically at the moment, but I know there's ways, as long as you got a good bunch of them, it's a pretty fun army to use.
Yeah, I got destroyed by Shades 2 weekends ago. I went to an event, and somebody took two squads of Shades and took over both my Hive Lords. I had a Grubs and Hive Lord army. Took my Torkolna and my Contorna. And I went, what? There he goes. That's game. Good night.
Soul Devour.
I couldn't do anything.
This is one thing, and I hope, Jeremy, if Renegade's listening, or if you relay this to Renegade sometime in the future, since you're on that crew now, but
right. This
is one thing I like about Heroscape is showing a little bit of helplessness, showing that, an actual story to where you're not going to have your typical happy ending, usually, especially if you're going through like lore like this, and this is in all kinds of IPs as well, to where you introduce characters, but some are evil, some are good, but you have your issues, you have your good, you have your bad.
It's not a soap opera. Not everybody lives.
Exactly.
No, this is the war. This is war.
Yep.
War
Yeah.
never changes.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good little introduction to this. Now, when this journal entry was released, were shades already out in the market, or did this happen before they were released? Do we know?
When did shades come out? Let me see. Depends on the date. Oh, I could spell. I could, in theory.
It is interesting. It's definitely a factor that we forget when reading these is when did certain characters come out, you know, and the weeks. It's not like when you download the PDF, it tells you dates. That would have been great, but
Yeah, we lost a lot of in the 14 years
sure.
that the game has been around. We've lost a lot of data in terms of like where stuff came from. A lot of what I've been doing while I get things finalized is locking those dates in, so people, not just me, but other designers can refer to it, because it's, you know, it's essential to the brand to know where certain, like for example, when they transition from classic content to Dungeons and Dragons content, you know, things like that is super important. From what I'm digging, Stitch of On dropped in 2007, June. Where? Can't remember. Trying to see if they updated at all, because the post he has is Sergeant Drake's War, and that was dated 2007. Yeah, so I can't tell.
Okay.
It might be something I'll have to look up later. But the farthest back I could go with the title Travels and Travails is 2007, but that's after the Shades came out.
Okay. I mean, it doesn't matter too much.
chance.
I was just testing your knowledge.
It's
too.
fun history. Yeah, it's
history.
really obscure history. I don't think people don't remember this stuff. This is the stuff that came out and it was really cool, and now everyone that was around when this was a thing, they're all adults now, so it's like, oh yeah, I remember when the Shades grew up. It's like, but do you?
But this is
I remember them being sold at Walmart. So
right. No, and then when it comes to like the actual story here, I found it interesting because when we started reading this, I'm like, wait a second, weren't we just in like tunnels with Vidar? How do we get to Bleakwood? All of a
Well, it was
sudden?
4 days.
It was
yeah,
4
there's a
days, right?
passage of time
Okay.
marked
Yeah.
on the
So and time continues, so we don't know the outcome of the last journal entry, and we go right into this one to where it's got nothing to do with Vidar at all, essentially. So
he's scribing as major events versus a
Right.
daily record.
right,
Yeah.
right. So do we know anything in between that time at all? Nope.
All in the air. It's all travel time. So best you could assume is the distance between a nun to Bleakwood, and if anything happened between that is between the writers. They don't.
Okay.
So yeah.
And I don't remember us because we brought up the days of Ranvig, and I was scrolling back through to see if there was any more that had stated that. There was one other. 27 had said the 11th day. So we went from 11th day to 12th day to 19.
So yeah, passage of time. Either I think there's a few where they're still at the stronghold, just resting, and then there's a few where they're traveling on ongoing travel. So, but that's all we get.
And
For sure.
and for Kelda, is this the first time Kelda gets introduced, or has she been introduced before?
I think she's brought up.
She's in the second chapter because she was she came with Jandar to meet Thormun at the Sigling Sea, and then that's when they got the commission, and then she became part of the emissary group. But she's kind of just in the background, and then appears in this one scene where she fights the ghost.
Right. Doesn't even really heal anybody. She's just fighting.
She healed she healed Thormun's attack, like, because Thormun got hit, but
Okay.
and he's just wounded, waiting.
He was just praying, okay, please let this healing work. Do not roll a bad roll.
Right.
Now, when it comes to, like, remind me again, for the sake of context, since this will be this in its own video, where are they going again? And they're just making observations throughout Valhalla, but what's their objective?
So their objective as emissaries is to establish the first ever Valkyria alliance. This is the first time that anyone's attempted contact with anyone in a peaceful sort of way, because as we know, Rise of the Valkyrie was just civil war material. They were just beating each other up nonstop, trying to claim the Wellsprings, couldn't find where the Wellsprings were at, yada yada. And then there's all those like different conflicts, including Kimoshi and all that stuff. That was all happening in between, during this time frame. But before Swarm of the Morrow could even happen, Jandar decided to make contact with the other Valkyrie that had made themselves known at the original summit. So remember that the peace summit that gets held at Age of Annihilation, that's 10 years after the original meeting of the Valkyrie to announce themselves as Valkyrie.
Yep.
So yeah, at the Shattered Table, that map, the Shattered Table, that's the meeting place of the Valkyrie. That's where they announce that they are Valkyrie. And so 10 years after the fact, so in between that 10 years, this is all happening. And we have Thormun meets all the generals. He meets Ular, gets that contract going, meets Vidar, has struggles a bit, but then gets that contract going, and then meets Einar, and that ends his story. Like he just established the alliance that we worked with in 2007 to 2009. Before the arrival of Valkyrie. Yeah. No.
So this is them. So I mean, I guess that kind of self-explains then the finality of like journal entry 28. So they go to Vidar, and so this is probably the time they meet with him. It's just not recorded. That they meet with him to discuss alliance, and then they start going through. Who would they be heading towards? Would they be going to
Lindisfarne, which is No, so Achille wasn't known at this point, or if she was known, then she was known to the devs and only the devs. But they were heading to Lindisfarne, which is Einar's place.
Right. Okay. Gotcha. So the
Empire
there. For sure. Okay. All right.
But making their way downtown.
Anything else, Joe, Jason, that you that any other observations you guys think?
No.
Nope, nothing really there.
No, it's pretty straightforward. That one's cool. That it felt like it didn't really I don't remember, did it say anything about like what Bleakwood's vibe was? Bleakwood's just very foggy, right? Like, because like to me, like going through a lot of like haunted towns, you know, like in different areas of America, you know, old towns that have that haunted hay rides and stuff like that. Like that's the vibe I felt.
You got ruins everywhere, everything's overgrown. Yeah.
The big thing is the trees in Bleakwood, they grow so tight together that no light can enter that forest, and so as a result of weird Valhallan magic, it creates unnatural life that you know, souls are born in Bleakwood that are empty and hateful because they don't have any connection to the life, like anything else around it. It's just pitch black.
Reminds me of
giant
Mirkwood.
Yeah,
Mirkwood in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's a Mirkwood. It's definitely Mirkwood is a great guide for the aesthetic if you want to try to. It's just your typical dark forest in the center of the continent, where you know just how happens to be in the middle of the territory that the bad guy owns. You know, they're just using the classic themes. The party goes through the dark forest when they get attacked by a ghost. You know, I mean, we've heard the story.
I've heard this ghost story before.
Yeah. Dawn of Darkness had a lot of really good themes, but a lot of those themes were very much just like easy to use, and that's why I, at least from what I understand in my experience interacting with Final Fantasy, like all that stuff, all the franchises, it's like, you know, Dawn of Darkness really didn't stick around as long as any of the others, in my opinion. Like, it's hard to find those now, and then it's like, I remember them being out, and then they were just not. Everyone moved on to like Wave 7 and all the others, and I was like, I still need the heavy gruts. I never got the heavy gruts until ScapeCon. That's how hard it was. Like, they just pooped. Yeah.
For sure. Oh, we need more of that stuff. We need more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, if there's nothing else to you guys want to mention, I guess we can wrap up this journal entry. Then, looking at journal entry 29, it was a real, it was a very real sounding. It's like they're usually not happy endings or even like continuous endings. Sometimes it just ends for certain characters, and this was one journal entry to find that out. And so until next time, this is looking at Travels and Travails, Thormun's journal entry 29 from Heroscape Original Classic Lore.